Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Soul. I'm actually very tired today. I just got home from work and I have to record a bunch of these because the deadline of my birthday is slowly creeping up, so we're just gonna fucking do it. Today, I want to dive into my past, dive into my gaming history, and really break out some memories for a console that I love, and it's kind of like every video game or every video game console, I should say, that I've played in-depthly, like, I end up loving, because it's like, not only do I love the games that are on there, but it's like, once you're used to, like, an interface, with the newer systems, racking up achievements, I went in depth how, like, the music player on Xbox was so cool to me. It's like, you really develop a fondness for these systems, and the retro games, the retro consoles, there's such a warm feeling with those. And obviously, I'm a millennial. I was born in 97, which I'm not sure when the Nintendo 64 came out, which, by the way, that's the console we're talking about. We're talking about the Nintendo 64, which was this big game console for Nintendo. They were just following up their previous successful years, and this was their next big project. And sure, we were able to get the PlayStation, which was an actual serious competition, but at the same time, it really was Nintendo was on top of the market, which definitely changed within the next couple years, especially if you look a decade or two later. But anyway, the Nintendo 64 was kind of, I think, my first console, because when I can't remember whatever my first video game was for the life of me. To me, when I think back, in my earliest memories, there's always been a video game console there. I remember my sister had a NES. I remember, playing PlayStation at my grandma's, and, I think we had a PlayStation 1 at some point. But the Nintendo 64 was the first one I remember where we had it around the house. I was putting in games, and there was a lot of fun games we had. And oh god, the ones I really got into, first off, Pokemon Snap, which was a game I played multiple times over, and I've actually played it over the years. It's just a really accessible game, and it's I know everything about that game. I know it's in and out. I know where all the Pokemon are. It's just a really relaxing, fun game, and I'm never not in the mood to play that. If I'm ever just busting out the Nintendo 64 for the sake of it, Pokemon Snap has always been there. And there's other Pokemon games, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. The second one I played much more. I think the first one we just rented. But the second one, there's a bunch of mini games, a bunch of fights. I think I was just playing it for the mini games. And I'm just looking this up because I got curious. Yeah, the Nintendo 64 came out in North America in September of '96. So I wouldn't have been born for another 6 months. So this thing is older than me. And just looking at this thing, it's such a sleek looking system. We have the on button and the restart button, the little memory thing, and the area for the cartridges. And then you got the 4 little plug-in stations for your controllers. And god, look at this motherfucking controller, man. It doesn't make any fucking sense. There is no proper way to hold a Nintendo 64 controller. They don't want you. It's either you gotta use the D-pad or this analog stick. And they're just and if you want to press the middle button in the center of the thing, you really got to reach your hand over. Not natural at all. It was a really kind of clunky controller, but it has such a style to it. Just look at that thing. When they were selling this thing, they were just you know what? Just make it look as futuristic as possible. Who gives a shit? And the newer systems that try to base their gameplay on efficiency and you trying to be able to press all these buttons as tactically as possible, that wasn't a thing as much back then. So just having this cool looking controller was a thing. And I remember we had, I don't know why, we had 2 or 3 Nintendo 64s just lying around. There was a green one, a gray one, and I think we had a blue one. And I remember we had a dick load of controllers. We still do. I don't know where the fuck they are. I don't know, because I've been dragging around these things for a minute, and usually they're just in a bag in my closet somewhere. It probably, like, the ones we have, I haven't busted out in such a long time. It might be a goner, but, you know, here's hoping. But I know people who, like, well, I don't know them personally, but on the webs, there's people who collect Nintendo 64 controllers. And there's so many different designs. It's actually it's such a, like, fun system to collect for. And even though, like, I never was able to do that, really, because the box fucking games on this thing, man, they're fucking expensive. You know, Nintendo games are, like, the one, like, group that, like, if anything, never decreases in price. If anything, it'll go down a little bit, and then it'll go right back up. So it's a very hard, you know, it's hard for me as a cheap boy to get into all these games. But I would love, like, I know Virtual Console is a thing now. And I know there's a bunch of fucking emulators, but I don't like using emulators. So, like, if I really want to, I can go back and play all these Nintendo 64 games, which I would like to do one day. I really want to finish Donkey Kong 64, which is a game that my brother and I, one of us before we die, better finish Donkey Kong 64. And I feel like I have to carry on that torch because my brother has given up, because I fucked it up for him as a kid. For whatever reason as a kid, and it was most prevalent on Nintendo 64, I would restart games all the fucking time. Maybe I just got stuck. Maybe I just, for whatever reason, I just kept playing the beginnings of Donkey Kong 64 and all these other games over and over again. And, like, I was starting so many files that I accidentally would delete his files, because I'm a little fucking kid. I don't know better. Obviously, if I was who I am now, I wouldn't do that. But I think I deleted, I know he finished Majora's Mask, but I don't know if, I feel like I deleted it after he finished his file, or whatever. I deleted his file on Donkey Kong 64 right when he was at the end, and I deleted his file on Paper Mario, which he was right at the end of that game too. So I was a fucking asshole kid, and I would have beat my ass if I was him. Oh my god, like. I can't picture, like, having a little brother doing these things, because I was the youngest, right? But to imagine myself doing that. And, ooh, like, I'm looking at the Wikipedia of the Nintendo 64 game, and I remember, because they have a picture of a Nintendo 64 game ripped open, I remember that there was this, it was a random fighting game. I think me and my brother were just fighting over it, like, for whatever reason. And my dad was just not having us fighting over it. I think that my parents were split at the time, and we were just visiting him. He was at some random place. For whatever reason, there was a Nintendo 64 there with a game. And I just have a vivid memory of my dad pulling this cartridge out of the console and just ripping it in half. Like, that was, like, I forget. I just need to look up fighting games for Nintendo 64, because I never learned the name of that game. And I think I know there was a couple games that he, like, I feel like we had Turok on Nintendo 64 too, and I don't remember what happened to that one. Maybe he just ripped that in half too. And I'm just getting pictures for Smash Bros, which we had Smash Bros. We never really got into it. The game we always played was Melee when it came to Smash Bros. But you know, we also had a couple wrestling games before we even got into wrestling. They were all terrible. We played a couple, like, we played a couple other, like, Star Wars games that we always had. Like, if anything, I really should get rid of those, because I still have them. Like, they're just taking up space. Like, I still have a bunch of these games. I've, like, sold a good amount of them off, but some of them I still have around. GoldenEye was a game my brother really liked. Him and my dad, I remember I remember them playing that. I never got into it. Like, I remember him going into the system, like into the code or whatever. Not the code, but he would like put in cheats and like make the characters' heads weird sizes, and like he would do all these things that like I as a kid was never able to do. Yeah, I don't. Maybe it was on PlayStation because I don't recognize any of these games. I would really need to like see the game because I can't remember it for the life of me. Another, we had all of the classics. I feel like we had Super Mario 64, which neither of us beat, but we got really into that. We really got into Majora's Mask. Couldn't play Ocarina of Time. We didn't have that at the time. So, but we were able to, my brother, he fucking played the shit out of Majora's Mask, as, and I did too, but I played the beginning of Majora's Mask a lot more than the later parts. And, Zelda's a hard game. I was way too young and stupid to be playing that. Like, I was a dumb kid. Like, playing video games was really hard for me back then. Like, it was a struggle. Oh, Star Fox 64 was, like, one of the biggest games for me, because that was actually a game I got all the way through, was able to, just boom, boom, boom. And it's a super short game, so you were able to go back and go different routes. I'm not gonna just break down Star Fox 64, but it was a super fun game. Diddy Kong Racing, I remember my brother played that a lot. That was kind of like our Mario Kart. I bought Mario Kart at like a yard sale and like played it once, like in my teenage years. But yeah, if anything, the games I remember most, the games that were like the most prevalent to me were Star Fox 64, Paper Mario, Pokemon Snap, Donkey Kong 64. I want to say those are like the big four. Cause even like GoldenEye, I didn't play that much. I didn't play I didn't play any like the Kirby games or any of the Metroid games. I don't even know if there is a Metroid game on Nintendo 64. I didn't play Hey You Pikachu. I didn't play that much of Diddy Kong Racing. But yeah. And I didn't play any Mario Party. We didn't have any of those. And despite all that, though, the Nintendo 64 was a great couch gameplay, like, co-op experience. Because, like, even, like, Donkey Kong 64, I remember my brother and I just fighting each other all the time on that. I remember us, GoldenEye together, Smash Bros together. It was a great system for, like, two really young kids. And all the games we played together, like, I remember having so much fun. And a lot of the games, I would just watch my brother play a lot of the time. Like, he was the older brother. I sucked at video games. It only made sense. Later on in life, I do remember just being like every time we got a new game, he was like the first to play it. And I'd be like, God damn it. Like, why do you always get to play first? But, a lot of my games I got to play first, towards my, like, teenage years. But, like, either the, like, Fable games, I'll just be sitting there, like, with my arms crossed, just like, God damn it, like, why do you get to play it first? But yeah. I think that's pretty much the gist of my memories for the Nintendo 64. It is a great console, and it's great enough that I've been lugging it with me all these years. And I remember still trying to play them back in the day, really trying to get into it. It's a great system just to pull out and reminisce on. Most of these games you can play on Virtual Console now, but it is a charming, lovable system. The bright green, I love that color design. It's great. It's an amazing system. The opening and just that little fucking N is classic. It's iconic. Perfect. It's almost like a perfect system for what it was trying to do. Like this retro, fun, like old system. It's great. I love it. Anyway, those were my memories with the Nintendo 64. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow with another episode of Good Morning Soul. And until then, with that, I leave you.